It's the pop culture film manual.
Good
Let me ask
warm-up,
you
man.
then. Yeah, let me ask you. Do you like Halloween? Do you do anything? You got any plans?
Yeah, I like Halloween. I used to like it when I was a kid, obviously for the dress up and the candy.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older, I like any opportunity to come together and to celebrate, to be around people. I'm a big people person, kind of more so, I think, than any time in my life. I just like being around good company, friends, family. And so any excuse to celebrate and to come together is a good one. On Halloween
Yeah.
is, the kind of, I guess you could say, Americanized pop culture version of Halloween I'm okay with. Obviously, it's totally like paganistic and like in its origins and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
if you can put that aside, then it's fun to dress up, and it's fun to have a little bit of candy and watch a horror movie or play some horror video games, because horror in our human mind it's just a primal thing. I think that's why there's like a solid fan base always for horror movies. It's like why the Blumhouse movies have always done so well, because
Yeah.
a lot of them aren't very good, but people just love that genre, man. They love, like, whether it's the unknown or that sense of dread or that sense of tension that they get, or whether like that there's basic human things that I think go into making a horror movie or telling a horror story. They're always going to be there, so there's just always going to be people that want to kind of experience that kind of in a safe environment, like you can do with like television movies and video games and whatever.
Yeah, no. I think also people have like this like fascination with the supernatural just cuz like you said,
Yep.
it's the unknown. Like is
The
it
unknown.
there? Is it not there? Like people kind of have this interest in that stuff just cuz it like either confirms suspicions, confirms beliefs, or it just like you said is a primal instinct because ultimately I believe that people enjoy being scared. Like once your adrenaline's going, you feel good. So watching
Yeah.
horror movies makes you like once you're scared, you get it's kind of like a sick, demented, twisted way of getting your dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Because it gives you this feeling that you know you don't have all too often. It's kind of like drinking caffeine to me. Like if you drink a cup of coffee every single day, like that caffeine does nothing for you anymore. But if you have a cup of coffee like once a month, you feel it and you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, like that's a boost. So I
Yeah.
think, for me, that's why I'm like, oh, horror movies typically don't scare me because I watch them all the time and I know exactly how they're gonna go. But
Yeah,
anyways,
man. Yeah. So that is what we're talking about, folks. That's your episode to lead into the episode of this part two, actually, of
part two.
Monsters versus the Military. We did a Monsters versus the Military part one. It was season one, episode 22, I think, where we covered some great things like Overlord and Starship Troopers and Battle Los Angeles, Godzilla, things like that. But we're back, folks, and we're making good on our promise. I think was that we got an email a while ago. Ismail sent us an email saying, "Hey guys, just so you know, you keep talking about doing sequels to episodes, part twos, but you haven't really done many, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get on it." So I'm
Here you are.
excited.
Here we are.
This is the Halloween episode of the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast. Cameron and Israel here for you, and welcome to the holiday season. This is officially the start of the holiday season. We got Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas to kind of round out 2023. And we hope you had a good one, and we hope you have an even better 2024. So, yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's you can go. Which one do you want to talk about first? Because there's a lot of good ones that we could talk about when it comes to the military's involvement in fighting, whether it's monsters, aliens, supernatural terrors, what have you.
Yeah, sure. No, there's a couple that I recently watched that I put on this list. Typically, or at least more directed towards military fighting supernatural beings.
Okay.
I feel like our part one here was more a physical manifestation of a monster because, like, what at the end of the day, what is a monster? It's like an imaginary beast, right, or an imaginary thing that typically is fantasy, has fantasy origins that or
Yep.
is like what's like cryptid type animal or something.
Yeah,
But
Godzilla, The Mist, that kind of stuff.
yeah, so physical beings that you can see. But for this one, I went a little bit more ghosty, just because it is Halloween, and
Yeah.
a lot of people believe in ghosts and whatnot. And I know Izzy
Hmm.
hates ghosts; they're stupid,
Hmm.
and all they do
They're
is move
dumb.
things around, and yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they're a bunch of
useless.
idiots.
Yeah, a bunch of idiots. But I'll start out with this one. I actually enjoyed this one. It's called The Outpost, or not the. Let's do. It is
Right.
called, Outpost, not to be confused with the two Medal of Honor recipient movies that we've talked about and hailed upon in the past. But Outpost 2008 is a British war horror film directed by Steve Barker and written by Ray Brinton. And it's about a rough group of mercenaries who find themselves fighting for their lives after being hired to take a mysterious businessman into the woods to locate a World War II era bunker. Um, I like the
Nice.
movie just because it has like any movie that has like a ragtag group of guys, tends to be a fun movie to watch. But this one actually has a big name, or at least some recognizable faces. Ray Stevenson, who
Rest in peace.
yeah, rest in peace, God rest his soul. And he was the newest, or one of the new Punishers, so pretty recognizable actor in the action realm. Richard Brake, who is kind of a lesser known one, but if you've seen him, you've seen him. He has one of those faces that, like, he usually plays somebody that has a lot of problems. Like,
Yeah, real
he's
steezy, like
yeah,
creepy dude.
yeah, he looks like he chain smokes all the time. He's skinny, he's lengthy. He's in a bunch of Rob Zombie films. So that,
Oh,
yeah, so that kind of gives you an idea of, like, the type of actor he is. He always plays these demented roles. But
well, he's
Ray
in
Stevenson,
Barbarian.
he play. I'm pretty sure he plays the old guy in Barbarian. So
Oh,
there
okay.
you go,
Yeah.
perfect. He's like a horror movie, like very thriller actor. So he's been around. So when I saw him in there, I was like, oh, great. And what's even better about it is he plays a U.S. Marine. So basically, you have Ray Stevenson's character, who is the captain. He wears British Royal Commando, or at least a uniform by them, but then he also wears a green beret. So I don't know what his
Hmm.
his character origins are. But anyways,
Hmm.
This mysterious guy he's a mercenary. Ray Stevenson's a mercenary, and this mysterious guy shows up to him in a pub, and they're talking, and they're hiring him for a job. And the guy basically wants him to escort him. They're somewhere in the European theater. So there's there's a domestic insurgency happening. So he needs hired security to basically escort these guys, or escort himself to this bunker system he's looking for. So basically, Ray Stevenson says, give me some money up front. I need this. I need 6,000 per dude, and it's going to be like a 48-hour operation. So he gets this ragtag group of dudes from all different backgrounds. So you have like a Scotsman, you have a guy from Africa, you have Richard Brake's character is a U.S. Marine. So basically, just mercenaries, just a big melting pot of dudes. And they escort this guy to this bunker, and they're using tactics to get him to the bunker. And once they find the bunker, they go ahead and go in, and they discover like this pile of bodies inside of the bunker, and they find one guy who's alive, and they like basically try to treat him, but the guy's just a vegetable, and he's like not looking at him, like not saying a thing, and he looks like a Holocaust survivor. So you're like, are these guys like Holocaust survivors? But there's no way that they are, because they're not that old. So basically, you come to find out, and spoilers ahead, folks, but you come to find out that the guy that hired them is trying to find this machine that the Nazis have been working on, because everybody knows that the Nazis were really, were known for being involved in like occult activity and doing
Right.
testing and trying to create, supernatural inventions and whatnot to help them in the war. And they were working on the same machine as Einstein was working on, as far as like how trying to control physical matter. So like there's a bunch of elements that matter there are physics that involved. I don't know, I'm probably butchering this, but pretty much after the atomic bomb was created, Einstein like ditched this theory because he realized that like this type of machine would be extremely deadly, or if you could crack it.
Mm.
But that didn't stop the Nazis. So they were working on their own machine, and pretty much the idea was to be able to enhance soldiers using this machine to where they could like teleport, and they could like basically
Wow.
like their physical matter could like basically disappear, and they could show up anywhere. That way they can get like legions of the Nazi army and just show up at the doorstep of the White House.
Nice.
So that was the ultimate goal. And there's actually an interesting example that's mentioned in the movie. It's called like the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh
And
yeah, Philadelphia experiment. Yeah,
yeah, and that was like I've never heard of that before, and so I
yeah,
looked into it, and it's like a U.S. Navy ship that was they were practicing like, or at least trying to figure out some like active camouflage,
yep.
technology, and they just had an entire destroyer disappear and then teleport into like Virginia or
Yeah.
something, and like there's eyewitness reports saying like the boat literally just showed up, and yeah, so like a lot of cool little but there's not been like confirmed reports. It's all eyewitness statements, and there's no actual military documentation to prove it. Because guess what? It's the military, and if that actually happened, I guarantee you that would be like classified, classified, classified.
Yeah.
But so basically, they find this machine, and lo and behold, the Nazis tried using this machine, and in their attempt, created ghosts, Nazi ghosts.
Mhm.
And pretty much what happens is all the mercenaries end up getting picked off one by one by these ghosts. And like there's a bunch of chaos because like they're being fired upon, but then they see these enemies pop up and they're all engaging them and nothing's happening. And pretty much one by one, all these guys just get brutally murdered. And then the movie ends by they all die. It's literally, yeah, like the Nazi. You think there's going to be like a happy ending and they're going to escape because they formulate this plot to like turn on the machine and re-engineer it to basically reverse its effects to like kill the Nazi ghosts, and like they are successful, but then the machine breaks and like they come back to life and then kill everybody. And then yeah, the
Oh.
movie ends with a rescue team coming to fix them, and basically they the same thing exactly happens to them. But
Bunch of ghosts
yeah,
come out of
yeah, a
nowhere.
bunch of ghosts come out of nowhere, and it's like, but one thing, the guy that they found in the pile of bodies is actually like the leader of the ghosts. You come to find out, he's like the Nazi captain.
Oh.
Yeah, but no, it's a fun movie if you can get like away from like the tactics and everything. But like they're mercenaries at the end of the day, and like they're definitely old school. But Richard Brake's character as a U.S. Marine, he's just like he loves his job. He's just like loves killing, and he's like he's not a religious man, and like he's just exactly who I would think. He's exactly himself in the movie of who he's played in the past, just wearing a U.S. Marine uniform. So it's a good movie. I enjoyed it for like a kind of what kind of caliber movie this would be.
Yeah.
It delivered all expectations, but it was fun to watch. I enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man. That's a great pick. I appreciate you going out and having all this time on your hands, apparently, to watch all these movies, because I have like zero time.
Remember, I'm in between projects, so
Still in between projects, folks. Yes, but it's all coming. It's all happening very soon. I would love to talk about World War Z, man.
Sure, let's
Classic
do it.
zombies. We might have mentioned it before. I don't know if we had a zombie episode. I'm sure we've mentioned it, but let's talk about World War Z, based on the book. Right, the movie came out in 2013, and I've actually listened to the audio book, the audio version of the book, which is very well done. It's kind of an accounting, or there's a journalist who's going around the world interviewing people about when the zombie outbreak happened and how it happened and how it spread. And it's like 10 years later or whatever, the world's kind of settled down. They've got it back under control. So he like goes back and interviews people. It's really well done. I highly recommend the book if you're into the zombie genre. It's really well done. Audiobook if you don't have time like me and you're driving a lot in Los Angeles.
Or if reading puts you to sleep like me and you
go.
got the audiobook.
Yep, there you go. It's very completely legitimate. But this one is with Brad Pitt, and the basic synopsis: he's a former UN investigator living with his family. And then I love how it happens because they're just living their lives. Like the first couple scenes is them living in a normal, I think it's like New York or something. And then they're just stuck in traffic one day, and all of a sudden everything just pops off. Like they see in the rearview mirror, there's people running and getting run over by people and other people attacking other people. They don't know what's going on. And so they just hightail it out of there. And he realizes that there's this viral outbreak that's just spreading it through a single bite. And then just within, I think, 9 seconds or whatever, you're a zombie. And it spreads so fast. It's like the running, it's the athletic, Kenya zombies, where they're just running everywhere.
Just super fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
The zombies you wouldn't want to encounter if that was the case.
Yeah. You want the slow moving, shambling zombies, but they get picked up. Finally, the UN takes them out. They're out on a ship, and his job in the rest of the movie is to find out more about the virus, where it came from, and so that they could figure out how to stop it, basically.
Yeah.
And that takes him kind of on a globe trotting adventure across the world. He goes to, I think, North Korea. He's with a team, like a special forces team, led by James Badge Dale, who I actually met once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, but then things go wrong. He goes to Israel and they have to get out of there because the zombies get over the wall. It's like the tidal wave. I love how they kind of did the zombies in this one, because they're all running and just rage filled, just mindless, and they're just running all over each other, and they just end up turning into this tidal wave of human bodies. And that's how they get over in one point over this giant wall, as one grabs another one and tries to get on top of the other one. They just end up like climbing the entire wall, like ants. Exactly. Yeah. So there's lots to like about it. I think they intend to do a sequel at this point, 10 years later. I think they had at one point intended to do a sequel, because they only get about halfway through. They have a resolution, but they don't actually solve the problem. He think in the end he gets back to, or they end up crashing in some country, and he ends up coming to meeting up with some virologists, and then they find out that the zombies in the movie, they don't attack people with certain conditions, because they can just like sense that condition, and they like go around. At this one point, this little boy or this old man is like standing there, and they're just passing him by, and he's like, well, why are they just passing him by? And so they kind of find that it's like a camouflage, basically, and he ends up getting back to his family. He's like, well, this is our war. We're gonna win. And that's kind of how the movie ends. I actually heard they had a lot of production problems. It was just, I think it was something about being really super disorganized. They didn't like the ending. At one point, he was supposed to crash, I think, in Russia or whatever, and become like, get a resistance band together and then start fighting his way. It was like him going to be like fighting his way back to his family, but it was going to take 2 movies or whatever. But that didn't happen. Other problems. So they basically, I think, the airliner, when they're trapped on the airliner with zombies and they crash, that's where they stopped the original film and then switched to kind of a smaller ending where it's just him and the Israeli soldier girl. And then they meet up with Doctor Who, what's his name? Peter Capaldi and the other guys. But yeah, so World War Z, it's fun. I don't think it was like the best movie. I would love to see if they did some sort of sequel, but that's like 10 years ago. Not that Brad Pitt ages, but it'd be kind of hard.
He's going to pull a Tom Cruise and just come out with a Top Gun freaking, decades later.
Yeah. And they got the digital de-aging now technology. Yeah. So he can just put that into his contract and they're like, yeah, you're good to go. You could play a 40-year-old 30 more years with your career, Did you ever see World War Z?
I did see it. I mean, comparatively, blah, 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 English. Comparing World War Z, the film, though, to the book, like, they're completely different, right?
Completely different.
Yeah, so it's like, you said the book is like from a news reporter, like, interviewing people.
Each chapter is a different person that he interviews.
Oh, I gotcha. So, like, with that World War Z movie, they pretty much had free roam to do anything, really.
Yeah, they took, it's that adaptation where you take the skeleton idea and bits and bobs and parts that happen in the book, and you take those things out, and then 90% of the rest is just you doing your own thing.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, usually when you're basing a movie off of a book, your ending is written for you, so you could you could just go that route. But I guess if you're making a completely different movie and just calling it World War Z, yeah, there's a little bit of writing issues or writing necessities that need to come into play.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I saw World War Z. Definitely some good military, fighting versus the zombies. That's why I think it
Yep.
deserves a spot on this list for this
Yeah.
part two. Yeah, I ultimately love the Israeli conflict. Like when he's with the
Yeah.
girl, like she's a bad, like they call it, she a bad bitch, man. So she's like,
She's cool. Yeah.
yeah, super cool. But with the IDF, like women are on the front line, so I wouldn't expect anything differently from like a female Israeli soldier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it could do a good sequel, but I mean,
Yeah.
2013, yeah, 10 years. 10 years is a long time to let that sit.
Well, they'd have to do something. They'd have to do a time jump, I think, if they were going to do a sequel.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, he's been doing this. They've made progress, and now there's some final thing maybe that they have to do to turn it around. In the book, it's cool because when the military first tries to hold off the zombies, they're using conventional tactics like small arms fire, rocket launchers, these kinds of weapons, and like they'll blow a zombie apart, or they'll shoot a zombie with a bunch of bullets, but it'll just keep coming, and they're
Yeah.
totally unprepared. And so as time goes on, and in the book, I think they're actually the slower shambling zombies, but there's just so many of them
Yeah, it's
that
overwhelming numbers.
yeah. But in the book, there's a point at which the pandemic kind of slows down in the middle of the United States because there's this plain, like the mountains become like a natural barrier. The Rocky Mountains become a natural
Yeah.
barrier and kind of slow the spread a little bit, Uh, and so that gives the time for the military to reconstitute itself. They come up with these cool zombie fighting weapons. They're kind of like one part pickaxe, one part shovel, so they can kind of fight them effectively. So it's really cool how I love hearing or seeing the thought process of fighting a fictional being, a fictional monster, right?
Yeah.
Like we in our first episode we talked about Spectral, which was it was like they thought they were supernatural ghosts, but it turns out they were just villagers who had been caught in this explosion of this kind of electromagnetic kind of was Higgs boson or Higgs boson particles or whatever, and they were essentially like disembodied people that were
Yeah.
attacking, and if they touch you, you died. So he had to come up with this kind of scientific way to think it
To
through, come up with
fight
these
them. Yeah.
special lasers that could fight them. Same thing in World War Z. So if you really want to know the story, I recommend the book rather than
Yeah.
the movie. Actually,
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, hey, if they are making a sequel for I Am Legend, which is supposedly supposed to come out this year or next year, then that was 2007, and if it's coming out 2024, maybe World War Z is on the is on the
well,
list.
we already know that they can de-age Will Smith
Oh
from
yeah.
that. What was it, Gemini Man or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, where he
No.
could. So maybe it's just, but they're gonna have to. It's funny, they have to do the non-canon ending because there's an alternate ending that was not the theatrical ending. In the theatrical ending, he takes a
Got it. Yeah.
grenade and runs at the zombie horde and just blows himself up. Uh, but in the non-canon ending, apparently he gets out. I don't know.
He gets out, and that's kind of be the catalyst to the sequel. But we'll see how they skin that cat. But speaking of skinning people alive, we could talk about Predator.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So I
I'm
mean,
surprised that we didn't talk about it the first time.
yeah, I don't know why either. I know because there's two Predator movies I would like to talk about. Obviously, we've done a number of we've done a number on the original Predator. But I mean, you have a military squad of what are they? Delta. They're like Delta operators in
Yeah, they're
the
supposed to be
original
like a
one.
Delta type. Yeah, he's like, we're a rescue squad, not assassins. So there's something about like a deep undercover recon team that Arnold Schwarzenegger is a
Yeah,
part of.
yeah, but also in the movie Predators, plural, where they bring all these different people with warrior backgrounds in
Hmm.
a way, because you have some characters that I wouldn't consider warriors. Um, and they bring them to the Predator planet to hunt them, and they have to fight back and try to escape. But I would love to talk about that one in depth. We've
Yeah.
mentioned it before on the podcast, but not as much as the original Predators movie that everybody knows we are huge fans of. But
Yes.
yeah, there is a lot of characters that have military backgrounds, like the main protagonist, Royce, who famously wields the AA-12 automatic shotgun. He
Yeah.
is, yeah, so he is a former. There's not a lot of background on him. All it says, if in all the research that I've looked up to or looked into, it just says he's a former soldier that turned mercenary. So you
Hmm.
have a little bit of military experience there, but now he's just like in the outpost, except he's not being killed by, or he's not fighting Nazi ghosts. He's fighting predators. But you have him. You have Chuchillo, which is played by Danny Trejo, who is
Danny
a
Trejo.
enforcer for Los Zetas cartel. You have Nikolai, which is the most common Russian name ever. He is a Russian commando in Russian Spetsnaz. You have Isabella, who was in the IDF, which is Israeli Defense Force.
There you
But
go.
I found out that originally she was scripted to be a CIA Black Ops assassin. But I think
Huh.
her being in the IDF was a little. I like that move more because it gives
Yeah.
you a broader military background. You have
Yeah.
Mombasa, who is an African Sierra Leone Death Squad officer and a member of the RUF. Which was pretty active during the early part of the 21st century. You
Huh.
have Hanzo, who is an enforcer for the Yakuza. So you have like enforcers for different gangs in the movie. And then you have Stans, who I don't know why. I don't like him. He's just a death row inmate who is scheduled for death 2 days before he's captured by the predators and put on the island. So he's kind of a skeezy character. But you got a
I
lot
like
of.
that actor. I by the way is going to be
Oh,
in
he's great.
the Fallout TV show as um a ghoul, like one of the main
A
ghouls.
ghoul.
What's his name? Walton Goggins.
Yeah, Walton Goggins. He's in a lot of movies. He's great. I like him.
He's a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, he's got that look, you know. Yeah, he's in a lot of westerns.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in like Hateful Eight. He also
Yeah.
yeah, he's in oh yeah, look, Fallout right there. He's in Hateful Eight. He's in Justified. I like he have you ever seen The Righteous Gemstones?
No, I've heard of it.
Oh yeah, you have, yeah, he plays like the preacher, like one of the main preacher guys. Yeah, no, he's a good character. He's a good actor, but his character in Predators is really scummy.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and nobody trusts him for good reason.
But there's one
But
more though.
oh yeah,
What's his name? The doctor.
yeah. There's the doctor, and then you also have the air cav guy that they come across. He's former Army Air Cavalry, and he's like a survivor. He's the guy that lives in the abandoned ship, and
Lawrence
he's just like
Fishburne's character.
yeah. He's absolutely crazy. He's
Yeah.
also in there with the military background, and then also you have those two dead special forces guys.
Yeah, come
are
on.
in
What the
that
heck?
movie.
What's up with that, man?
Yeah, they had Rangers, but they made it out.
I know it's such a slap in the face when they see the dead Green Beret. He's like, oh, look at this guy. He's like, oh yeah, he's dead. He died.
Oh yeah, he died. He was useless.
He made it. It was almost like a wink and a nod to the original Predator because he had all these traps. He'd made all these traps like they did in Predator, but they didn't work this time, you know?
Yeah, maybe we're coming up with theories now. So, like, maybe the Predators, since they lost to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is Special Forces, they deemed them as like top prey. So that's why they went after
Oh.
those dudes, and they tried using the same techniques that Arnie used, but they
Ah.
learned from them, and then they learned from Arnold and avoided them, and that's how those guys died.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, man.
Fan theory coming
That's
to
good,
life.
man.
Yeah, but the Predator movies are great.
What do you like? What do you like most about Predators specifically? Because there's been a couple Predators. There's been Aliens vs Predator. There's original Predator. There's Predator 2. There's Prey that just came out that was pretty good. Why this one?
This one, I chose this one just because Prey was amazing. I've
Prey was good.
rewatched. Yeah, Prey was great. I
Got a sequel,
rewatched
I
it
think.
multiple times. Yeah, I hope so. They opened it up. They opened it up for every single major conflict throughout the world that a Predator can be.
Amber
involved.
Midthunder, I met her once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she used to go to my gym.
Oh, she used to go to your gym? Oh, very cool. And what's the story? You went up to her, you said hi, she said hi, and that was it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that met my expectations. But
One that I want to get in here kind of before we run out of time is Annihilation from 2018.
yeah.
I really like this movie.
Did you?
There's stuff, there's obviously some like exactly what happens and how she's affected kind of by the end of the film is like, I think I could probably piece it together and maybe we can do it now, but um I like the director. I think I've seen the other one. Let's see. He did Ex Machina was I think the first one that I remember seeing him direct in 2014. But for those unfamiliar, if you've uh, never seen this one, Annihilation. I think it's based on a book, which I have not read. I hear as with all things, I hear that the book is very different than the movie, uh,
Oh, it's
which is
based on.
fun.
I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah, but very like I say, it's very different. But meteor falls to the earth. I think it's like in the Florida Everglades is where it lands.
Yeah.
And then there's this kind of energy field, they call it a shimmer, that starts surrounding it and then slowly expanding like a couple inches, every week or something. But it just keeps going and going and going. And the military gets in there and everything they send into the shimmer, kind of they lose track of it and then it just doesn't come out. And so Natalie Portman is a scientist. She's a former soldier, I think, too. And her husband, Oscar Isaac, is called up for this. She doesn't know what at the time, but she finds out that, and he disappears, and she hasn't seen him in a year or two. And she finds out, she gets called up by the military and say, "Hey, this is what's going on." She finds out about the shimmer and the meteor and stuff, and and they say, "Hey, do you want to go in and you can find your husband?" That's kind of her motive is to understand what happened to him. And then she gets hooked up with a whole team of scientists that go in there with her, and they all have it's a pretty good characterization. Tessa Thompson's not like my favorite actress, but she's in it, and some other good actors in it. But they go in there, and it's the basic premise is that everything within this field, the shimmer, is affected in some way, and there's the meteor or that whatever this technology is, this organism reorganizes and reorients DNA. So it
Yeah.
combines different things, different essences or different DNAs, and so they see all these crazy plants, and they're part animal and part vegetable, and they get attacked by this wild. They get attacked by a crazy crocodile that's all mutated, and then there's a bear.
It's like a bear wolf thing.
It's like half its face is falling off. It's skeletal, and
Yeah. Can it also mimics like screaming, right?
yeah, because one of their team gets killed by the bear, and so its essence mixes with her essence, and so it's like saying things. It's like growling, but it sounds like her voice, like her
Yeah.
crying out.
It's pretty terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some weird twists. I think that's one of the things I like about it. There's some weird twisted imagery in it. There's some wild kind of scientific concepts. Um, and one by one, the team gets taken out. One gets killed. Another one, Tessa Thompson's character is like, she's all like zen about it. She's like, you want to fight it. And, Dr. Ventress wants to destroy it. She's like, I don't want any of those things. She doesn't ever say what she wants, but she's kind of like chill about it. She walks around the corner, and then Natalie Portman tries to go follow her, but then she's just gone. And there's just these plants that are in the shape of people. And you get the impression that like, she's like just turned into a plant, whatever.
Yeah, no, that scene was weird.
So Natalie Portman gets to the end. You find out they find this old camcorder, and you find out that her husband, the whole team just kind of went insane, like all the soldiers on his team, because they get affected by the field, and they just go crazy, and they get mutated too. I think at one point in the video, they have their buddy, and they're like, "Okay, you ready?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And they're holding him down, and they cut open his stomach, and inside his stomach is just like all these worms like crawling around inside of him, and he's still alive. So really cool imagery and mutation kind of stuff. She finds out that there's this weird kind of like okay, so
that part I didn't understand. I know where you're going, and
yeah,
I didn't understand it.
let me back up because so her husband has disappeared in the beginning of the movie, and then he comes back one night, but he's not the same person.
Yeah.
Like he's
He's
just
completely
acting kind of
different.
strange. Yeah. And so that's how she gets pulled in initially, but then she finds a body that's been burned by white phosphorus, and then there's a camcorder there, and she watches it, and it's him, and he's saying like, I don't know if I'm me anymore. I don't know if I'm real. Like this place has changed me. And then he just kind of like kills himself. He's sitting down and he just lets the phosphorus grenade go, and he burns himself.
Yeah,
Burns
completely
himself to
kills
death.
himself.
And
But
so, but
then when he kills
then,
himself, he literally comes from off camera and it's him again.
yeah,
And he's
that's
like
right.
alive. And
Yeah.
I didn't understand that part.
Well, I mean, I think it's explained at the very end, she goes down into where the meteor actually impacted. There's like this tunnel at this lighthouse that she goes down, and it's like the heart of everything. And one of the girls is there, and she like throws up this light and all this white light speckle. She like gets like turns into a being of light or whatever. And all this stuff flowing around, this vortex opens up, and one of Natalie Portman's drops of blood flows into it, and then it forms like another
A
being,
humanoid,
a
yeah.
humanoid being, and it like mimics her movements and kind of matches it, and then eventually she gets close to it and it turns into her. So this thing, there's all this theme of like recombination and multiplication, cell division kind of scientific stuff. Like I said, I don't know that I understand all of it, but I think that's probably what happened to her husband, is that a clone was formed of him that's not him, but it is him. And then it walks off and goes and finds her because they have this connection. Yeah. So she wants to get away. So she kind of mimics or she leads it over to pick up another grenade, and then like gives it into her hand, the mimic's hands, and has the mimic pull the grenade on itself. And then she runs out, and the mimic, catches on fire. And then the whole thing, it kind of crawls down in, and then the heart gets like everything, and all the roots from the meteor get, burst into flame, and then everything dies. And so it's kind of like the earth is saved.
Yeah.
But then at the very end, they're like, are you okay? She's like, I'm fine. But then she goes to meet her husband in this like quarantine area. And then she's got like a little like shimmer in her eyes. And so does he. And so she's been changed. And is it really her? Is it something else? So
You never know.
yeah, you never know. So I'm sure
And
there's
they
a lot
hug.
of deep psychological and scientific themes that I missed. But ultimately, it was a pretty satisfying experience, if a kind of, I don't know, ambiguous one,
Yeah.
But
That's a good one, man.
Yeah, I like that one. I think the biggest thing I like is that the entity that falls to Earth, it's not aggressive like the military commander's like, this thing's attacking us. She's like, I don't think that's what it's meaning to do. It's just doing what it does. It's just a biological imperative that it has. And she's like, and it conflicts with ours. Like only one side can survive. That's what the whole kind of annihilation is about. It's like one because these two things came together that are just who they are, what they are. One had to die because that's just how biology is. That's how nature is, So.
Super deep, Izzy. Very deep.
I'm a deep person.
Yeah, but cool. There's some just to simplify this and dumb it down. Cool monster sequences that they end up fighting, like the gator and the bear. Like they're super. They're well done. Like I also find it funny when she like Natalie Portman is like a soldier, but she doesn't go into her background. But you could definitely tell like her husband Kane is like a special forces guy or like a Delta operator, because they're like hinting that everything he does is like super secret.
Yeah,
and then she shoots the gator a bunch of times, and all the girls are like, wow, how'd you learn to shoot like that? But like if you look at the scene, she's shooting at an alligator that's ginormous from like 5 feet away, and it's like, how'd you shoot like that? It's like, well,
how
I
could
just
you not?
pointed. Yeah, how could you not? And everybody has a gun too. That's the thing. Like they all go in with rifles, and like she's the only one that uses it.
Yeah,
fucking useless. But anyway,
they do make it a strong point. They do make a strong point of like saying like, oh, this, she's like, oh, our team's all women. They're like, yeah, but we're scientists. I was like, oh, okay, you need to have that line in there.
I know, right? I'll go over Death Watch really quick, and then we'll move on.
Right on, man.
just because you asked about it, and I don't want to leave you
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Death Watch came out in 2002. Synopsis of it is 1917. 9 British soldiers find themselves lost in enemy territory on the Western Front. They take refuge in a corpse-filled, rat-infested enemy trench where they wait for rescue. As night falls, however, the men sense that they are not alone and soon begin to die one by one. I found out about this movie totally by mistake because after I watched Outpost, it popped up as like the next one to play. And I read that and I was like, oh my God, thanks for doing my job for me, you know? And it was just like, so I watched it, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed it because there's actually some big names in it. Let's see, what's his name again? Plays Schmeagol. Yeah, Andy
Oh, Andy
Serkis.
Serkis? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Andy Serkis is in it, and he plays the best guy ever. He's literally this private that is just obsessed with killing people. He's like the Ranger private if I've ever seen one, and he like has this like shawl on made of fur, and it's in World War One, but it's a really eerie scene. It's like everything's pretty demented, and the squad comes across this trench system as they're navigating through this fog, and like they come across the trench system and they're like, okay, we're going to hold this until reinforcements arrive. And they get in the trench system. They realize that there's like 3 German soldiers inside of it. And like when they first get onto it, like one of the guys is pointing his gun at them and he's like, hey, like put your hands up. And all the Germans are pointing the other way. And they're like, no, you don't like leave us alone. We have bigger fish to worry about. And like they finally like end up giving in, and like they kill 2 of them and capture one of the Germans as a POW. And then Andy Serkis character just totally tortures the guy. He like finds his billy club with a bunch of nails in it and just like walks around like a troll the entire time, just like, you know, trying to kill everything. But
Yeah.
the one I wish I saw this movie sooner because it would have been a perfect addition to our officer episode about how much we hate officers. Because
Oh.
the British officer is like the worst in it. It's just like the perfect representation. They use terminology that are just so fit. Like honestly, it's the most accurate representation to me of like how enlisted and officers kind of exist together. So
Mhm.
like, you know, you have this brand new private that enlisted. He, you know, his main sergeant asked him, he's like, how old are you? And he's like 19. And he's like, no, how old are you? And you find out that this guy's 16 years old, and like none of the guys want him to share foxhole with him because he's obviously a liar and like they don't trust him. And the officer ends up killing his own men by accident because he's like way too switched on. Like during this one, they thinking they're about to get hit by artillery or another assault from German, and like one of the guys rounds the corner and the officer accidentally shoots him in the head, and it's his own guy. And then Andy
Dude.
Serkis comes over and starts beating the crap out of him. And there's just a lot of things that happen in the movie that are like I liked, like the new private goes up to his sergeant and he's like, sir. He calls him sir, and he's like, I'm not a sir, I fucking work for a living. And just really cool things. But you come to find out there is no like monster in it. And there's like these German soldiers that are like completely during, and everything that happens at nighttime, that's when the people die. So like the dudes that are on like fire guard or on security at night, those are the ones that die because they're by themselves.
Okay.
But like in the first guy that dies, like he sees like these 3 German troops because the trench is filled with bodies, and like throughout the movie they're actively like cleaning them all and piling them up. But he sees like these 3 German troops, and they're all like completely embedded with barbed wire. Like they look like, you know, barbed wire Nazi zombies. And they like come to life and like end up killing him. And come to find out later in the movie, spoilers ahead, folks, that like there is no, you know, ghosts in the trench, but the trench system itself is the monster. So
Ah.
like out of the ground, like a bunch of barbed wires will come and kill people. It's kind of like Hellraiser type stuff.
Huh.
But like the monster itself is the trench system. And like it's funny because they have a chaplain with them, and the chaplain actually goes insane and he becomes like the main antagonist in the end. Because
Oh.
like he's like, I feel it in my gut, the only thing I can feel is like hate and killing. And so he starts killing his own men, and he's driven to madness by the trench. And like the only guy that survives is the 16-year-old kid at the end. And
Mm.
actually I really liked it. It was for
Oh.
like a 2002 movie. I watched it while I was running on the treadmill, And I'm sure I should have watched it on the big screen because my iPhone screen was a little tiny. But honestly, it was a really good movie. I'm glad I watched it.
That's cool, man. Jamie Bell is a good actor. He's in it. He's like the main private, and a bunch of, look at all these British actors. Oh, it's so funny. Andy Serkis. I'd like to see him in something in which his face is not covered by CGI.
Yeah, no,
That
this
might be
movie,
fun to
he's
check out.
completely himself. Yeah, no, it's a fun movie. I mean, obviously, it's a drama and a horror, so like there is no joy in it. But there's small things that they do that, like, there's this one scene that's brutal where like they have this one private that was injured when they got to the trench system, and they're like taking care of him, and like the young private towards the end of the movie goes over to him, and he's like, oh, he has a blanket over him, and he's like, I think he's like, what am I saying here? He looks at the blanket and like the blanket's moving, and the private's like, oh, you're gonna be okay, like it looks like you're getting some feeling in your legs. And he's like, yeah, I'm starting to feel better. And then like the private like lifts up the blanket, and his legs aren't moving. There's literally rats eating his legs, and they literally like took his legs off, and he sees it, and then he starts screaming, and he's like missing his legs, and there's rats all over him, and the private just
Oh.
goes over, and he's like, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay. And he pulls out his pistol and like takes him out of his misery. So like, yeah,
Oh man. Well, it sounds
yeah,
like a real joyful romp through
yeah. Oh, it's a
strawberry
family.
fields
It's
there.
totally, watch it with your family. Definitely watch it with your young kids. It's a good one though. I liked
Oh,
it.
that's cool, man. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for the main body. Why don't we get to a fan question, then we could play a little game to round out this Halloween episode.
Yes,
This one
sir.
comes from Travis Calvin via Instagram. Says, "Hey guys, 'tis the spooky season, and I wanted to touch on one of my favorite movie genre of zombies, since it's been a while since they've been mentioned in the podcast. Until now, Travis. I'm watching 28 Weeks Later, which is one I have not seen, and something I've always felt is that the code red situation of infection breaking out en masse and the corresponding orders from Idris Elba to kill anyone. Is he? Oh wait, 28 days later, I think is that when Idris Elba is in
Is
that
there?
one. Or no,
Okay.
Idris Elba's like a zombie in the first one. Oh, I wonder if they recast him as a funny little nod. Anyway, to kill anyone on the ground and subsequent orders to firebomb London is the most accurate example of a U.S. military reaction to. You mean a UK? Is the U.S. military in there? To a zombie
Jeremy
outbreak.
Reiner's in it. Looks like.
Um, says, while it seems brutal or cruel to take these steps, with the number of innocent people killed, my civilian brain is convinced these steps taken to prevent, contain, subdue, and eliminate the virus are actually how the army would go about this situation. What are your guys' thoughts? Thank you for
Okay.
the question, Travis.
Well, I'm a little biased, man. So, human life is precious until it's not. So, like, I feel like there's immediate reactions to specific events, and then there are reactions that take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Um, you know, sometimes what's like, to save the many, you have to, do what you have to do. So
Right.
I wouldn't feel like it would be against the nature of the military to turn on its own people, especially if they're infected.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely gonna have to, let's see, ground and subsequent orders to firebomb London. It's most exaggerating in the military action the zombie outbreaks I've seen. Okay, yeah, no, I think it's necessary. Like, especially at that level of like we are about to lose the world. I don't think that would be against my moral compass. It's like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I'd like to think that military doctrine, U.S. doctrine generally is to try to preserve life, but I think it depends on the situation. If it's faced with something like that, you can totally understand where it's like, if it's in danger, if it's on the brink of breaking out into a new area, and if it got into this area, then it would just be a flood of unstoppable infection. Yeah, I don't put anything past our government or any
yeah,
kind
no,
of government to completely sacrifice an entire city or a region for the sake of stopping some sort of outbreak or whatever.
yeah,
I
like
think more,
mandatory vaccinations.
yeah, I think more likely what they would do is use it to their political advantage and allow it to spread, as long as the elites could have some bunker somewhere they could live in relative ease.
Yeah, because everybody knows politicians hate poor people.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, but
Everybody's looking
yeah,
out for
no,
number one.
it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility there, Travis. So yeah, no, my thoughts are, yeah, I think it would be an absolute necessary step to me, it's like kill 1,000, save 1,000,000.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, It
was
just sucks to suck. Yeah.
Hiroshima and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like, if we bomb a couple of their cities like this, maybe we
They will
don't have to
stop.
attack the mainland,
Exactly. Well, cool. Well, we hope you answered that. We answered that one, Travis. Let's go ahead and move to our game. And I have a game for you, Izzy.
Oh, really?
Yes, this very spooky game was made especially for you. It's called a 1980s horror movie game specifically created for Israel Wright.
Wow,
Chris
what a
has put
great name.
together, I know, right? Chris has put together a list of 1980s horror movies, and you have to tell me who the monster is in each of them. We're looking for the main, most identifiable monster here, no side quests. A game so easy, there isn't even a warm-up.
Whoa. All right. I think the pressure's on because Chris knows that I'm not as much of a cinephile as he is, but I'm pretty up there.
Okay. Well, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. No warm up, as Chris stated. Jumping right into it. First movie, tell me the bad guy, Hellraiser.
Yeah, I mean, his name is Pinhead, I think it's like the traditional
Pinhead
name
Larry?
for it. Yeah, lead Cenobite, I think his name. Yeah, he's got the holder of the box. I think they go into his origin story at one point, but yeah, Pinhead is his name, dude. Main dude.
Okay, perfect. You got the idea. Right on, moving right along. Cujo.
Cujo is the rabid dog that attacks the family. So the main bad guy is the dog. The main bad dog. Bad dog.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it verbatim. Rabid dog. Perfect. You got that one.
All right.
All right, moving right along. Christine.
Oh, Christine. Great John Carpenter movie. I think based on a Stephen King story, but the main antagonist is the possessed car. Christine, the title character.
Bonus points if you can tell me what kind of car she was.
Oh, man. Impala? Chevy Impala?
No. How dare you not know that she was a 1958 Plymouth Fury?
That was going to be my next guess. I promise.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Not whores, horrors.
Yes, that's a different game. Yeah.
That's a different movie.
Little Shop of Horrors, it's what is it? It's the plant, obviously. That's the big monster, mean green mother from outer space. But I think she's called, is it Trudy 2 or Trudy 2? Oh, I forget the name. His name is after his girlfriend, but it's number 2, but it's something 2, yeah.
So close. It is Audrey 2.
Audrey 2, not Trudy. Audrey 2. There you go.
Both end in a D. D. But super close. Didn't get that one, but very close, my friend. Moving right along. Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. I mean, the main antagonist in the first Evil Dead, the main antagonist is the Necronomicon. I'm trying to think of like if there's something, if we're talking about the actual first Evil Dead, it's everybody gets possessed by it, but it's the evil. It's the nameless, faceless evil that comes from the Necronomicon that is summoned by the Necronomicon.
I mean, allegedly it has a name. Chris put it right here.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I mean, the Deadites?
Boom! You got it. Yeah.
All right.
There
Okay.
You go. Yeah, it is the Deadites.
Okay. The
nice.
Deadites. Okay.
Way to pull that one out of your prison wallet. Okay. Moving right along. Deep Star 6.
Deep Star 6. Ooh, I remember this one. This was like a slew of undersea monster movies. There was like Leviathan. Abyss was like the good one. And then all these ones were like, not direct to video, but they were like derivative,
B-movies?
You could say. Yeah. Deep Star 6, the main antagonist is a undersea beast that gets unleashed from when they do undersea demolition. I think they blow some stuff up and then it gets released from under the surface of the ocean. So it's like a giant, looks like a giant swimming insect thing that chomps people in half. But Deep Star 6, sea monster.
Do you know the name specifically?
Oh God, it has a name?
Apparently.
Oh jeez. The Crawdad. I don't know.
Crawdad. I mean, honestly, in the little parentheses, Chris wrote, you said basically a giant lobster sea monster.
Okay.
But it is known. You're almost there, but you didn't get the name. It is called the Diplodon, also known as the Eurypterid Eurypterid monster.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah, you were close. Crawdad monster.
Crawdad
Yeah.
monster.
They look like lobsters. All right, you got 2 more here. Let's finish it strong. Maximum overdrives.
Maximum overdrive. I mean, it's this weird. I think a meteor flies over the Earth and causes all the machines to come alive and become evil. But the main antagonist, I think, is it's a semi truck with a giant face of Green Goblin on the front. And that's like the leader of the vehicles that turn on humanity. But I mean, it's a tractor trailer truck,
Okay, you are absolutely right. Chris has machines that come to life, and it says semi trucks mostly. You provided more than Chris
Okay.
has, so I'm gonna give it to you
All right.
with bonus points. So finally, to wrap this game up, one last one. Are you ready, my good friend?
Let's do it.
Fright Night.
Welcome to a Fright Night for real. Well, if we're talking about the original 80s movie, which is the only good one, the remake with Colin Farrell sucked. But the main antagonist, he's a master vampire that moves in next door to this teenager's place. So he's a vampire, basically.
Okay, perfect. Verbatim, a vampire. That's what Chris has. So congratulations, you finished off strong, my friend, just like you said you would. Well, cool. That was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. I like. I love. It's that nerdy. It's that nerdy urge within me that the thing that a nerd does is talk about the things that they are nerdy about, and so it's always a treat.
Absolutely. Well, we hope it was more of a treat for you, everybody listening, and not a trick because it is our Halloween episode. I had to do that.
Right.
But
Good.
we hope you enjoyed this episode. Folks, if you have any recommendations for military versus monsters that weren't featured on this inclusive list that Izzy and I went over, go ahead and send us an email to the PCFM podcast at gmail.com, or send us a Instagram message on our Instagram page at PCFM podcast.
Right on, folks. Check out my YouTube channel, the Iz Files. We're playing horror games all the time. It's a good time. Hope you can join us soon. That being said, happy Halloween and
cue music.